Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk About. And in this one we are talking about SCP-653 or the Boomerang. I'm going to be switching up the way I do these. Instead of giving my comments as they come, I'm going to read the whole article and then we're going to nitpick it, go through it with a more personality type read. We're going to read through it just beginning to end, and then I'm going to go through it again, but more nitpicky like I usually do. Just so you guys are able to learn about the SCP and then hear my comments on it, instead of doing it both at the same time. I feel like that'll make it much more entertaining. Object class is safe, so that's a good sign. But yeah, let us begin. Special containment procedures. SCP-653 is to be kept in a securely locked box in Storage Room B at Site Redacted. The keys to the box are to be in possession of Researcher Redacted. Removal of SCP-653 requires at least 2 armed guards. If skin contact is made with SCP-653 outside of experimental conditions, the affected individual is to be separated from SCP-653 and taken in for testing. Test subjects are to be kept under sedation in order to prevent self-injury while attempting to reacquire SCP-653. Due to many individuals having become obsessed with SCP-653 prior to containment, see addendum, people may attempt to enter Site Redacted in order to regain possession of SCP-653. These individuals are to be apprehended and brought into Site Redacted for testing. Description: SCP-653 is a plastic, multicolored boomerang measuring 25 centimeters from tip to tip. SCP-653's shape is the typical returning boomerang, however, it is more durable than its makeup would indicate. If a person makes skin contact with SCP-653, they will instantly become obsessed with it and will not allow it to leave their possession. After approximately 48 hours, they will develop a condition similar to magnetoception, becoming aware of SCP-653's approximate position at all times. Testing has shown that removing SCP-653 from the subject does not affect the rate at which the condition develops. Once the subject is aware of where SCP-653 is, they will be compelled to throw it as a typical boomerang. Instead of returning, however, SCP-653 will travel large distances away from the subject. Once SCP-653 has been thrown, the subject will immediately begin to seek it out, aided by their magnetoception. The subject will invariably be able to locate it. During the time that SCP-653 is being sought out by a subject, it is possible that another person will pick it up and become similarly obsessed with it. This has led to an unknown number of individuals actively seeking SCP-653. SCP-653 came into possession of the Foundation when Agent Gilson reported finding a boomerang stuck in the ground of Site Redacted. She took a photograph of it, picture above, but did not turn the boomerang in. 2 days later, Agent Gilson was reported missing from Site Redacted, and when contacted, was eventually established via her handheld transceiver. She refused to return to Site Redacted. Her reasoning for this was, "I've just gone out to get my boomerang back." Agents Redacted and Encore were dispatched to follow her, as this boomerang could potentially be an SCP. 9 days later, Agent Gilson found the boomerang, roughly 17 kilometers away from the town of Redacted, at which point Agents Redacted and Encore were ordered to engage and retrieve the boomerang. Agent Gilson was killed, and Agent Encore accidentally made skin contact with it and became very possessive of it, threatening Agent Redacted to stay away. Agent Redacted was then ordered to retrieve the boomerang and was forced to eliminate Agent Encore to recover it. The boomerang was then safely brought back to Site Redacted so its properties could be established. Addendum 653-1. At 11:04 redacted, 9:43 p.m., an individual was apprehended attempting to gain entry into Site Redacted. The individual reacted very aggressively when being stopped. He has been taken in for study to see the extent of SCP-653's long-term effects. At the time of writing, 6-9-redacted, 7 other individuals of varying age and ethnicity have been apprehended attempting to enter Site Redacted and gain hold of SCP-653. Okay. That's interesting. So, skin contact. It has to be skin contact? So, like, if you're wearing a glove, it's fine. But if skin contact is made with the boomerang, you become obsessed with it. Is it 17 kilometers? Yes, 17 kilometers away from the town of Redacted. How far is the SCP facility from that town? A lot of people have been affected by this. It begs the question, how far can it be thrown? It doesn't come back. So it just continuously goes until it's probably stopped by something. And then from there, the person automatically seeks it out, knowing exactly where it is due to some condition. Magnetoception. Magnetoception seems like a very interesting thing. You just kind of know where it is at all times. That can't be a real... I mean, it has to be a real thing. To some degree, but it can't be perfect. It said she took a photograph of it pictured above, but there is no picture. So that's not good. The amount of redacted is a bit excessive. I know that the SCP Foundation likes to keep its sites and alive staff members' names hidden, hence the 2 in the second last paragraph being unredacted, meaning you know who they are because they're dead. But I don't know. It is safe. That's a good point. Like, if it's inside, it kind of can't go anywhere, so... It is still a threat to them, though. Like, the personnel of the site. Because if it touches... It doesn't, from my understanding at least, there's no indication of it having an effect of drawing people to it. I know that there's an SCP, I believe it's SCP-035, the mask thing, that draws people to put it on. But I don't think that this boomerang has that effect where it's like it draws people to touch it. It just kind of happens. And granted, you can't blame him. It's an inconspicuous boomerang. I don't... The magnetoception is kind of freaky. Like, they just kind of know where it is. If we're like, just these random people emerge at the walls to the site, like, that's kind of creepy. What happens if you put 2 of them that were, like, what, well, okay, here's an experiment idea. You take a person, like a D-class personnel, you take another D-class personnel, you make them touch the boomerang at the same time, take it away, let the effects, like, get to them, and then you put the boomerang back. Will they kill each other for it? Which I should probably already know the answer, which is yes, and that is really messed up, but, like, would they? I don't know. 653. It's like a dog playing fetch with itself. In a way. Like, think about it. This agent, right? Agent Gilson, found the boomerang outside, picked it up, and then disappeared. because you throw it and then you immediately go after it. God knows how far it goes, but nothing will stop you from going for it. And that tells me, like, hey, it's like a dog playing fetch with itself. Granted, there's also the possibility that you aren't the first person to get to it. But like, person throws it, person goes after it, and either person finds it or someone else does first. And then it's just a huge game of catch me if you can. How many people have been affected by it? Because that's the thing, like, what if you throw it? Like, what if somebody throws it? Is it just gonna be like this mass of people converging on one point? If it got out, it's not like an SCP that will, like, actively try to seek out death of humans. But something tells me if it got out, the ramifications would be devastating. Because more and more people, not the entire world by any stretch of the imagination, but more and more people would get involved in its chase. And then if two people converge in one spot, they fight for it, that allows for more people to show up, and then more and more and more. Like, how many people would die trying to get this boomerang? If it's inside, it doesn't pose a threat. That's why object class safe is kind of there, you know? Because if it's inside, it doesn't pose a threat. I like this one. I said my piece for this one. So, yeah. Thank you all so much for listening and or watching, whichever one you were doing. Please consider subscribing as it helps me out a lot with motivation and just overall makes me really happy. Thank you all so much for paying attention, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.